Hey guys, welcome to Talking Strongman. I have a strongman legend with me today. The very first winner of World's Strongest Man, 2 times winner of World's Strongest Man, Mr. Bruce Wilhelm. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here.
So as I just said in the introduction there, you are the first man to ever win the World's Strongest Man title. That's a pretty amazing achievement to say you were the first that, you know, led the way of this sport that there's so many people are into now. It's growing all the time. It's getting bigger and bigger. But you are the man that started it all off.
Yeah, it's kind of true, and it's actually amazing that beside the fact that I won it, is the fact that how it came about. Because you know, everyone always wonders, how did this really start? And I didn't expect to be in it. I was training for the Olympic list, because I went to Montreal in '76, and then I was training for the World Championships. And a friend of mine, a fraternity brother, called me up, and he was telling me they were putting a show together for TWI, Trans World International. And so he said, you know, all these strong guys, could you help us find guys? And I says, oh, sure. And so he would call me, you know, a couple times a month, 3 times. And he told me, yeah, we're going to do it, you know, guys. And I gave him names. I told him put Terry Todd, maybe Paul Anderson would be one, Ken Patera. So I just started a name. I says, you could put Vasily Alexiev down if we could get the Russians. I mean, I says, there's all kinds of strong guys. You'd want to get it from weightlifting and powerlifting. You know, I said, I don't think there's other guys that really cut it. You know, you hear about all these other Angus McCaskill stories, you know, carrying a 1,700-pound anchor and stuff like that. But that's how it actually started. And then they narrowed it down. And then they called me up, and I met the guy that was kind of like putting the show together, this guy named Jerry Adler. And, you know, then they were going over the list of competitors, and then they went through it. And, you know, it was Ken Patera, it was Bob Young, who I knew played pro football. Then there was 14 years all pro or something, which meant nothing to me. And I knew his brother, who was a powerlifter, so I figured he was fairly strong. But he was a shot putter. Then there was Lou Ferrigno, who I thought was a joke. I don't know what the hell he was doing in it. You know, the Hulk, that was the deal. And then there was who else? Oh yeah, there was Ferrigno, me, Bob Young. Oh yeah, and then I actually made a list trying to remember who the other guys were. Let me get it. You know, because I kind of hadn't thought about it. But it was Franco Colombo, who I couldn't understand was possibly in it because he was, you know, so small. And he was way, you know, out of his class, even though they claimed all these fantastic lists from George Friend and a guy named Jack. And I can't remember his last name. He was, because he had strong forearms and they said he was good. And it says my internet connection is unstable, but we'll keep going. Ivan Putski also.
Ivan Putski, yeah.
As I recall.
Was he a wrestler?
So that's kind of the list. And then Steve Merjanian and a guy that was a wrestler, I can't remember his name, he weighed about 450, 500, Chris Taylor, I think that was, yeah, Chris Taylor on the Olympic team. And that was the list of candidates, but my name wasn't in there until they told me I was in it, which surprised me. And that's how it started. And then he sent a booklet out showing you the different lifts, you know, and what was going to be expected. And so and of course I was an amateur athlete under the AAU rules, and there's no way I could compete. But they said if I gave them, everyone was guaranteed $2,000 just for showing up.
Okay.
And so that if I just gave them the $2,000, you know, not thinking, you know, I'd do anything in the contest, you know, I said fine, and it was good exposure. But I knew I wasn't at my best because I was coming off an injury where I tore a vastus internus twice in 2 weeks, clean and jerking 474, 215 kilos. So I just says, I just go along for the ride. And that's how it started with me.
It's amazing. I've watched the 77 World's Strongest Man, and obviously, you know, having you on, I'm probably going to pick your brain a little on it. But you kind of you went through so much then anyway. But I really wanted to. So you at first they just used you more as an advisor to find athletes.
Yes, absolutely.
That's incredible.
I mean, I had no idea. I mean, I didn't. To tell you the truth, I didn't think I was really, you know, at that time good enough. I mean, you know, I was strong. There's no question. But I mean, you know, like Patera was kind of like an idol of mine, and he was ungodly strong. And George Friend, who I didn't like at all, you know, I've seen him do his squats and stuff, and I was friends with him at one time. And you know, and the other guys, Bob Young, I didn't, you know, I mean, a nice guy. As it turned out, they were all pretty nice guys. But you know, when I'm there to compete. So I'm not over there handy patty cake, you know, sure, yelling, "Come on, do it!" You know, win. I'm there to kick ass, and that's. You know, I'm a little different than most people, I guess, like that. I guess things have changed in this new society.
Well, I think it all depends on the individual. You get some people that are, you know, they're laser vision, and it's all about winning when you're in a competition. I think all of us who compete, if we're not there to win, then why are we turning up? It's, you know,
I wonder that sometimes myself. You know, after the first event, which, you know, we all saw what the event was, and they laid the tools out so you could see. And you could look at it, you know, for the first day, and Harold, and you know, they had a hell of a cast of characters. Harold Conley was one of the guys involved in actually producing and making the program. Then they had Tommy Kono, who was one of the referees, you know, 8 times world champion. And then they had, I'm just trying to think who the other one was. They had, I think Hatfield was there as a referee, who was a power lifter, you know.
I think Paul Anderson was there, wasn't he?
Who?
Paul Anderson was involved as well, wasn't he?
Yes, he was the commissioner of power, of which I became later. You know, that's right. In fact, it's just funny, you know, Anderson was weighing maybe 375, 380, and it was so hot when we were doing this. It was like 108 degrees at, you know, the studios in where we're at, and you know, it was outdoors, and his daughter passed out, Paula. And so Anderson had dislocated hips, both of them, and he's kind of walking funny. But she was laying on the ground. I went over and picked her up and took her over to him. Yeah, I can show that. Yeah. And I actually, you know, took her over to Anderson, and you know, and he says, "Oh, thank you, you know, and all this, bless the Lord," and stuff. And then his wife was there, and then, I mean, I just thought anybody would have done it.
Sure.
But when I wrote an article later about, you know, just before he died, I was 1 hours with him, and I wrote the, you know, Paul Anderson story for Iron Mind magazine. But you know, it's just something he never forgot, and his wife remembered it too. So
that's nice.
It was kind of nice, but it was hot, I can tell you that.
Well,
what other questions?
World's Strongest Man has been to some ridiculously hot countries over the years. I know what it's like to compete in the hot weather. One thing I did want to ask is how long the actual contest took place for, because you know, we hear different rumors, and I know how Worlds has been structured while I've been competing, but you know, the TV show made it look like you did one or two events a week. It
was 5 days. We did it. How do we do it? It seemed, it was over 5 days. We'd do a certain amount of events and a day off, certain amount of events, and then we'd finish it up. But it was compressed, that's for sure. Yeah, they made it so it could be, I think it was 10 weeks on television is what they did.
That's how they.
And really the show, because I do know, because I was told by, you know, my fraternity friend Jerry Butts, who was one of the guys that put the show together, that if this show did well, that they were going to renew it for the next year, and that then they would try to go full blown on it. And so the show did go well, you know. And of course, as much as I hate to say it had to do with me, you know, because my mouth. But you know,
well, you need a good champion to entertain the people watching and the crowd. So with the first World's Strongest Man, I want you to talk to me about the events that they did. What events did you enjoy? Because I think there was 10 events, the first World.
Yeah, there was in fact, I was trying to remember all of them. The first one was the beer keg press. And that was kind of hard to believe, you know, because we looked at it when they showed us the beer keg, and it was at about 130 pounds of weight or something on it. And you know, it's no big deal. I just flipped it up because that's like just using a heavy dumbbell. But you had nothing to grip it with.
It
You
looked
had to,
awkward.
grip it by the gunnels on the side. And then there was this lead shot that was in it with water. And of course, it would slosh around. So it appeared that it would be easy to lift until you tried to turn it over. Because what you're supposed to do is like a two hands anyhow, basically, is what it turned into.
Yeah.
I just kind of just pulled it up to my chest, and then I just shoved it overhead. And it was, I thought it was supposed to be a press, but it turns out it was jerk press. It was like any way you could get it over your head. You could tip it on its side or whatever. So it was pretty easy the first round for everybody. But at 200, surprising. Some people couldn't do it. And it was even more surprising at 2 1/4 where they couldn't do it. Now, the guy that I expected to win it was Ken Patera, because he'd pressed over 500. And I'd seen him. I trained with him. I saw him press 555 off the rack. So what can I say? I figured he'd blow through 300. But when we hit 250, there was only one guy that could do it. That was little old weak me. And it was amazing because I missed it a couple of times, where I dropped it because I was blacking out. And I think I had just a few seconds left. They gave you 60 seconds to do it in. And I made it. I just kind of power cleaned it and growled and screamed and yelled and put it over my head. And from that moment on, I thought to myself, these guys, they're not in good shape. Not that I'm in the best shape, but I'm going to kick their ass. Then my whole attitude kind of changed.
You went from I'm here to have some fun to
we go to the next one. And everybody had their little excuse, Yeah.
You obviously, the switch went on. You were like, I can win this now.
Yeah, no, it did. When I saw it, because here's guys that I'd known for years, and guys that were strong, and I knew what they lifted, and so I expected, I thought for surely we'd do 300 pounds, but the thing is that was so tricky. It was so unstable.
Yeah,
and you couldn't control it. Yeah, it was tough. I think it was much better than I went to the log. And of course the wheels would have been even better. Like I guess they did later, but it was good.
No, I think for a weightlifter as well. I mean, you're probably just used to cleaning a barbell, so something like that with water kind of sloshing around in there, or the lead pellets and stuff. It does make it. I mean, what was your PB clean and jerk?
Best clean and jerk 496.
So 496, nearly 500 pounds, and you won this event with 200 and something, was it?
250. Yeah. But I power cleaned 468. Where you just do a slight dip, because I'm sure I could probably power clean almost as much as I could squat clean, because my legs were never my strong point. Yeah. I got a strong back, and a good pull. But Patera had done over 500. And these other guys had deadlifted, 3 or 4 guys had done 800 plus. So it was, and those guys couldn't even. And then you had a guy that was the world record holder in the shot put outdoors, Brian Old. No, that was the next year. Yeah, Oldfield was the next year. But there were some strong guys in there. So it was kind of surprising, But it just happened to be my day, and I was able to handle it probably a little better than other people because I did do overhead lifting.
Do you think that Olympic background really helped for the strongman? You tend to find, I think, Olympic lifters cross over a little bit better than power lifters sometimes. With they're a little bit more functionally strong rather than just being brutally strong in squat, bench, and deadlift.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I never really practiced a deadlift much, but I could do well over 700 pounds. I started out as a kid, of course, doing the deadlift, because there wasn't a lot of places that had an Olympic bar. But the thing is that the Olympic lifting, if you have any kind of speed and mobility, you have lateral motion, forward motion, you gotta be fast, explosive, get under the weight. And I think it makes a big, it's not like a grinding movement, it's more like an explosive movement. And that's where my shot putting background came in, because I was a shot putter before I was a weightlifter. So, it wasn't like I wasn't, and I was pretty good in the shot, but I was ranked in the top 10 in the world for 5 years, between 69 and 73, and I was always a bridesmaid, I never made an Olympic team because I was an alternate, but And it kind of irritated me, but weightlifting was like falling off a log, because it's you and the weight. You don't have some referee saying, we're going to take 3 guys this time, and we'll take you next time or something. The best is the one that goes on the trip. And I do think the Olympic lifting would help, and it would help because I always noticed with the power lifters, the guys that I've seen, and I've seen plenty of them, they're more like real thick and real heavy and strong, but kind of like slow. Although this guy, Eddie Hall, I've watched him. My kid's was big on him, and I kind of like the beast,
You like the attitude.
Well, the guy's a performer. You know. Part of the whole thing on this World's Strongest Man is performance. A lot of guys can't talk, or they oh yeah, I'm just so happy to be here. I'm just happy to be here today. This is wonderful competing. I would never say that.
Well, talking about attitude, then I want to ask you, one of the, someone to modern strongman is a real kind of, huge name in strongman is Bill Kazmaier. And obviously he came a few years after you. Do you remember early Kaz and what he was like?
I remember him well. Yeah, I was commissioner of power at, when he won it. I think it was 80.
Yeah.
I became commissioner of power in 78. I mean, let me see. I won it 70, 77, 70, 79. I was commissioner, 80 and 81. Yeah, I think Kazmaier, I think when he was younger, he was a little immature, because I wasn't a big fan of his. I was when he was kind of coming up, but, he seemed to act like he really believed he was the world's strongest man. And, you're the world's strongest man that day at that competition.
Sure.
And I do know that when he tried out for football, I heard from guys that, he didn't like getting hit. And then he went into wrestling, and I know tons of guys in wrestling, and he didn't make the cut there, So, I mean, he stayed where he was, but I can't believe he's still as heavy as he is. Health-wise, I don't think it would be all that good. But he was physique-wise, I think probably him and Pujanowski and John Paul Sigmarsson. I think that the guy that died from the heart attack, those guys, I mean, they were built physically, they like a giant bodybuilder. And that was impressive.
Kaz, when you look at him, when you see those images of him, his shoulders and his traps, he looks like the world's strongest man, particularly, back in the day. But, take me to coming back as defending champion in 78. That was the second one. Did you feel, because you said like 77, you hadn't trained properly for it. You weren't in your best shape. How did you feel 78 going in as the world's strongest man? Did you feel pressure to win again and defend the championships?
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure, but let's go back to 77 for a second, because I was so far ahead in 77, I didn't have to do the last 3 events. And so when Brent Musburger said, well, how do you think you're going to do in the next event? I said, I'm not going to do anything. I mean, I've already got it won. These guys can never catch me. Yeah. And they says, well, that's not the spirit of competition, And I was thinking to myself, Jesus, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Because, I mean, it was slowed up because I'd already won enough events where I had the point total.
Yeah.
So going into 78, actually after 77, I took a little rest, and then I started I started firing up the training for the World Championships in Stuttgart in 77. And it was in it wasn't November. It was in September, late September. And I didn't have a lot of time. And I started to have an issue with my elbow and an issue with my right knee. The other knee, the left knee, I blew it out during the Olympics in 76. So I was, as 78 as an Olympic lifting year went for me, because I did well through 77. The Worlds, CBS had a record makers in Vegas. I snatched the American record 402 and a quarter. So my lifting was going well, but the cleaning wasn't, because the elbow wouldn't collapse.
Okay.
So it made it hard to clean because you just couldn't rack the weight because you couldn't get it up. So going into 78, I had a lot of problems in lifting meets. Then when I bombed at the Nationals in June, they've been talking all along about doing the strongman contest, and I didn't want to do it. And the reason I didn't want to do it is because I didn't want to get my ass kicked. That's because everyone was laying for me, from the year before. Plus everybody that I knew was training on it. You know, they actually had the implements. I know Reinhardt did, and I know George Friend did, because I went over to a buddy of mine, Pat Casey, the guy bench 600, and you know, Friend would work out at his place, and they'd have the refrigerator, and they'd do. I just couldn't see a waste of my time, you know, picking up a refrigerator and walking 10 feet with it. And so I just did Olympic training, nothing else but Olympic training.
Yeah.
And a few benches and heavy incline dumbbell presses. So 78. The elbow was bothering me, and I didn't want to do it. I wanted $35,000 to come back to be as a winner. I said, you know, I don't want to have to deal with anything. I'll do the show for you, 35 grand, pay me. Well, they didn't want to pay me the 35 grand, obviously.
Yeah.
But they wanted me in the show, so they made an agreement that they would get me some TV commercials and stuff like that, you know. So that actually worked out even better than the 35 grand.
Okay.
You know, like going to Miller Light Beer and, you know, and of course going to the TV announcing, which is really a lovely, lovely way to make money. Yeah. I really wasn't keen, and I heard Reinhardt was all huffing and puffing, the best shape ever and all this stuff. So I said, big deal. So, you know, and then of course Laurence Shahlaei, who was a total animal, total nutcase. The guy's off the wall, smoking in between the lifts, you know, and then taking oxygen. I never seen anything like it. And Gus Resowich, another guy that was totally crazy, you know, just totally crazy, but a great lifter, you know. Yeah. So, and those guys were all training for it. And I'd had these little injuries, and you know, I just was like, oh God, I don't want to do it. But then I decided, okay, I'll do it. You know, what the hell? I can't be worse than last, right? And so that meet started, and of course, I started out pretty good, you know, and I did more in the beer keg press than the year before, but Reinhardt beat me.
Yeah.
And so in each of the events as we went through them, you know, Don was either close to me or ahead of me. And so then, and this went on through the whole thing. So I didn't want to do it. But, you know, then I'm in it, it's too late. And then, of course, you know, the actual apex of the whole thing was when we did the tug of war at the end. And, of course, who do I get? I get those two lump heads. So I got Reinhardt and I got Lars Hedlund. Now, Lars Hedlund was strong, and he was a wild man.
Yeah.
And so when we started, and in the tug of war, the problem that I have is I have fairly strong biceps. And so instead of doing the tug of war right, where you have the rope around you and you keep backing up, I'd be pulling it in with my arms, you know. And then Lars would jerk it and pull back, and then he'd take out the slack, which is 6 feet. Because we went the full time limit on it. And I'm telling you, I was gassed. Yeah. I thought I wouldn't even be able to do the final, honest to God. You know, they had to kind of hold it up for about 15, 20 minutes. And then, of course, Brent Musburger was running around pumping Reinhardt, because Reinhardt kept saying, oh, I'm so happy to be here with all these guys. Oh, this is so wonderful being here. Oh, these are great competitors, you know, friends of mine. I'm thinking, this guy's so full of it. and then comes that last event, right before the event. And, you know, I've been calling him a beached whale. I'm going to harpoon his ass, you know, and cut him up for blubber, you know, and all that, you know. And that rattled him, you know. It really did. And here's a guy that we used to be friends, and I think we are now, after I, you know, got him into the AOBS and wrote a story on him. And so all these guys get shook up by the talk, you know. Yeah. But I'd get that from the wrestling deal, you know. I was thinking about going to pro wrestling, and these guys just they would scramble easy. And so I remember he went to Musburger and he said, well, now we're gonna see who's the man, you or me. You've been talking about how I'm a beach whale. Well, we'll see how this comes out. And so he was good. Yeah. But he made a fatal mistake. Everyone says that I jumped the whistle. I did not jump the whistle, because Tommy Kono would drop the flag. What I did was Reinhardt fell back and he pulled me, and I moved forward because he outweighed me about 30 pounds. But, you know, Don's a little slow, and so I gave him a little jerk to the side, and I pulled his ass across the winners, you know, the line, and I won it. And everyone was screaming and yelling, and I was, you know, victory is, and, you know, I run around jumping up and down. Yeah, I had a great time. Yeah, I love winning. I hate losing. Was
that second win? Did that mean more to you? Because obviously, you know, people always say in sport, you can do something once, it's, you know, it can be a fluke. Yeah, and obviously a much closer battle this time round as well.
Oh, it's just a couple. I had to win it to win.
Yeah,
you know. That's how close it was. No, he was, you know, because Don, you know, just so you have a comparison. So he said he was a shot putter is what he told me. I never heard of him because I always followed it because I was California State high school champion. And I mean, I was internationally ranked. So everyone's a 60 footer, right? You know, which is 18 meters, I guess. 19 meters is 62.4. They're kind of in that range because, you know, there's 100 guys that can do it. So, I mean, he was saying that he'd thrown 59 or 60. I never heard of it. But if he did, he would have had more lateral motion, more athletic ability, blah, blah, blah. That's the way I looked at it. And so I knew that I'd thrown close to 68 feet. So I'm thinking, you know, I mean, there's, you know, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't consider him a good athlete. You know, I mean, he was, to me, he was a powerlifter. In fact, when he was just coming up, I wrote a big article on him for Ironman. For Perry Rader, because I just did it because I like, you know, before I became a strength athlete, I was a huge fan of Olympic lifting and powerlifting. I mean, I never even thought about making an Olympic team in the, you know, weightlifting. My dream was if I could do the shot put, and it was only as I got better and as my experience grew, and you know, this winning thing became obsessive because I was the same in wrestling. You know, I didn't like losing, and you know, I could be dying, and if I would die before I'd give in. It's like I was doing a treadmill test, you know, with a cardiology guy, and the woman says, "Can you keep going?" I said, "I'll go till I drop." You know?
It's that winner's mentality, though, isn't it? I think if you know good athletes, they will, and you make everything competitive. Just even just things with your siblings, or you know, on the way up, your wife or whoever it might be, everything becomes a competition.
Yeah, well, in a way, because I got a younger brother than me, and he's an attorney, you know, licensed to steal and cheat. But the thing is, he was a hell of a shot putter. Actually, he threw a little farther than I did, and he decided he wanted to make money, not be, you know, strongman or whatever, own a weightlifting store like I did. But you know, he went into that. He could have been on an Olympic team. You know, he could have been the world's strongest man. You know, so but you're saying, it's true. I don't like losing. Not even today. If throwing darts, I just don't like it. You know. I'm sure you don't either.
I hate losing, yeah, and I'm exactly the same. You know, I've got a younger brother. We were always competitive as kids. Even my father, you know, to the point of he would cheat against us in board games to win. It's ridiculous, but yeah. I think when you're an athlete, certainly most athletes, if you're competitive, doesn't matter what you do. You just want to win, and you know, someone like yourself.
But some are more aggressive. You know, I've been told I'm hyper aggressive. Well, I've kind of mellowed out though since my marriage, and I got a couple of kids, you know, and you kind of mellow as you get older.
Sure, I think we all do, but you know, I'm not the sort of aggressive in your face, but there is that quiet confidence. I'm like, I'll look at the next guy, like, there's no way this bastard's beating me. You know?
I'm with you 100%.
So I want to go back to the very beginning for you then, because you started, you've done a lot of sports, to be fair to you. You've been, and I think it goes back to that competitiveness. Doesn't matter what you do, you want to be good at it. But,
that's right.
You know, weightlifting was sort of your weightlifting and shot put were your main things, but you competed in the Olympics for weightlifting, I believe.
Yeah. That's 76. I got silver medal in snatch, tied for third, lost on body weight. And that was a big moment. And actually, you know, and when you look back, that bothered me for a couple of years that I didn't get third place straight out, because we're all the same, right? And it went by body weight, and it was only a couple pounds. And the guy that, you know, if we'd just taken 2.5 kilos, you know, more to open with instead of lighter, I mean, the guy never would have caught me. Couldn't have done it. You know, I would have won it straight out, third place. To win the Olympics, you know, I'd love to say, and that's why I say world's strongest man. You know, I mean, let's not get carried away. Alexiev, you know, from Russia, and he won 72, and he won 76. He did something that was incredible when he went from 507 pounds to 562 pounds on his second attempt in the clean and jerk.
That's just
Now
ridiculous.
the snatch, I could kind of hang with him. You know, I was closer to him. He did 407. I did 380. The next year I did 402 and a quarter. Just missed 407. I thought I'd break a world record in a snatch. 77 worlds, because you pressed out all 3 snatches, but they gave it to him.
Okay.
You know, so that would have moved me up even more. So I think when I think back about the lifting, it was a great release, because it was just me and the bar. You know, that's what the shot put kind of, you know, but they could mismeasure it, or, you know, there's a lot of unfortunately, there's a lot of politics, especially Olympic committee sports, you know, where the Olympic committee's in it. You know, like they wouldn't let us have our personal coaches in 76. So we ran a little boycott. You know, the 9 guys on the team, 7 said, we'll walk if we can't have our personal coaches. Why couldn't we have? You know, the rules allowed it. You know, and Colonel Miller was pretty cool about it. And he said, yeah, I was spokesman for the team. And everybody said, that's a good idea. Because, you know, you want your coach with you.
Well, if someone's helped you get to a certain level and they know you better than anyone else, that you want that familiarization around you when you're competing at the highest level.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah.
So was World's Strongest Man 78 your last competitive contest? You know, I'm not just talking strongman, but with anything, or did you compete again after that?
Well, actually, it was the last competitive contest for anything, except when I did I did a Miller Lite deal. I won their All-Stars deal, you know, with all of the All-Star celebrities. That was a piece of cake, though. I ate them alive. Yeah, 1980, I wanted to go to the Olympics. That was, you know, I figured I could. I thought if I progressed that I could get my weight and keep my weight at about, you know, right around 338 to 350 in that range, you know, not having a lot of grease on you, a lot of fat, but being really in super shape, that, you know, I may not win, but I sure as hell could give them a run for the money. But, you know, hey, when you do the best you can with what you got, that's it, you know, and I was just breaking down. And, you know, once you start breaking down, I mean, everything goes, you know.
Yeah.
It just follows, you know, because you put more pressure on one side than the other. And then all of a sudden you got a knee problem. And so I've had plenty of surgeries. So it was it took a long time for me to get over that, you know, not to be able to compete. Like I was fairly good size, you know, when you're 300 pounds, 340, that's good size, especially when I felt good and I was, you know, I just felt good. But as you get older, you got to change, and you got to, you know, you can't jump to every challenge. Sure. And so times change, but I was a little slow changing with that, you know, and it was hard, you know, but then by 1984, I got my weight down to 264 and a half, 120 kilograms to win a bet, you know, because I'd hovered around 300 with always kind of thinking, well, maybe I'll go up and hit a lift, or, you know.
I think it's a hard thing to do as an athlete, especially a strength athlete, because you're known for your strength and your size. So then to bring that, you know, body weight down and you know, focus on something different is mentally very, very difficult.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I mean, people look at me now. I look in the mirror in the morning. I go, hey, where's Bruce?
You look back at, do you look back at the old videos and the lifting and World's Strongest Man and stuff, and you got fond memories of it?
I don't like to do that too much, because then all of a sudden I get kind of jacked up, you know, and then I want to go out and train. And I still like to work out, you know. I mean, I love it, you know. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it sounds stupid at this age, but I just happen to like it, and I got a gym in my house. And, you know, what can I say? I mean, when, you know, I probably will die lift weights, you know. So
what kind of training do you do now?
Bench and get crushed.
Yeah.
Right now I got to be careful. I'm knee surgery. What I used to do, or not used to, but I did until a few months ago, about 5 months ago, was I would do benches, incline dumbbell benches. I had to be careful with the bench because I had surgery for shoulder replacement. So I went to the dumbbells, you know, and I was at say around 200, 210, I was handling, you know, between 70 and 90, 8 to 10 reps, which is not a lot. But when I've done in the past 207 pounds in each hand, you know, for 5 reps on the incline bench. And, you know, because I saw Casey had done 220, and I thought if Pat Casey can do 20, I should be able to get close to it. You know, the trick is you got to take it off the rack yourself, not have it handed to you. And then you have to kick them up. You know, handing them to you, I mean, that wouldn't be such a difficult thing. So, actually, I mean, I would do those, and, you know, and then the angle of the bench, I did it on one of the old Martin benches, which is like 45 degrees, you know, and not one that was all the way laid down. So I was pretty good in that lift. Excuse me. But then I would do like deadlifts because I couldn't do cleans, and I'd do snatch high pulls, and then of course back squats. Couldn't front squat because of the elbow. Yeah, I would do the treadmill. You know, fact, I did it more. You know, I had the right knee replaced. I had knee surgery on my right knee, and I'm not sure if they nicked the nerve or something, but it, you know, my calves shrunk, and it could have been from when I had a back decompression on an L2-3 back in 2012, but I don't think so. But then when they did this last one in 2016, they did a right knee replacement. There's a nerve that goes down your leg, and I get what they call flop foot, but then I've been able to, you know, get rid of it by training and working out and walking. And but the calves shrunk like 4 inches, so it leads to some instability. So and then I got to get my left knee done. You know, it's kind of like an analogy is you're a car, and, you know, you drive a couple 300,000 miles and the tires go, the transmission goes, the fenders get dented. So I'm having a little replacement work done, you know, and hopefully have a much less second round.
Yeah, I've already had to start all that, so I know the feeling. I had surgery on my Achilles last year, and very similar to you, like the calf shrank, and then it's like the signal.
Oh my God!
Yeah, the signal to the foot. It just doesn't seem to work how it did before. I sort of mentally I want to do stuff, and the body's just telling me you can't do it anymore.
The electrical impulse, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously injuries put an end to the career, but you stayed involved in Strongman for a couple of years. You were the commissioner at World's Strongest Man. Just quickly, you know, because I know it's hard when you're an athlete, you're focused on winning. That's the goal. But was there any athletes kind of coming up? I mean, the likes of, obviously, you know, Don Reinhardt was a great powerlifter, particularly extremely strong. We had like Jeff Capes coming through, Bill Kazmaier.
Oh yeah, Capes very capable. Jamie Reeves. No, I followed it. That Jamie Reeves, I don't know why. I was just a big fan of his because I thought he seemed awfully strong. You know, 600 bench, I think, with no shirt. I mean, I consider the no shirt to be pretty good. 600. Not too many people, you know, do it. And he just seemed like he just looked stout. You know, I don't know if he ever won it, but I know that he was big on strongman stuff. But, you know, I've been a fan of the British guys for years, going back to Terry Purdue, whatever, from Swansea. And I mean, I was a huge fan of his, and I didn't even know the guy, you know. Yeah. You know, and I heard he was a crook later, and I'm a steel guy, but you know, he had a steel scrapyard. But God, I like the idea that the guy could, you know, he could press. And he went to the Olympics, and he had to bench 568, I think, you know, no shirt, or, you know, the guy was impressive. A guy named Kershaw. And then, of course, your buddy Darth Vader, Dave Prowse, he came and stayed at my mom and dad's house when he was over in the States and spent a couple, 3 days with us in San Francisco. And interesting guy. And I stayed in touch with him. Shame he died. But he was a wild guy away from home. I don't know how he was at home, but he was definitely wild.
I'm sure a lot of the guys were wild at certain times.
Yeah, but I followed a lot of it. I saw this like I kind of got reinterested in it when my son was, who was also kind of an Olympic lifter. He was trying to make the team. He's kind of stepping in my shoes, but he told me they were pretty big shoes. He's having a few problems with them.
They are big shoes to fill.
He was about 310. And he was actually doing well, and then he had wrist surgery, and he waited too long, and then because of that, it kind of bothered the shoulder, and then with the COVID and the cancel of the Olympics and all this crap about drug testing, and you got to lift in 4 out of 6 meets. It's impossible to do a peak performance, you know, in 6 meets in a period of a year. It doesn't work.
No, particularly for Olympic weightlifting.
They've basically ruined Olympic lifting. You know, the thing is, you know, because drugs is a strange thing. You know, everyone thinks you take a little Deca or Anadrol or whatever, it's going to make you into Superman. It doesn't do anything. You got to train hard. You got to be gifted. You know, and the thing is, drugs were not illegal. They called them performance enhancers. Yeah. They weren't illegal until 1976. I was tested, and I thought, what's going on here? And then, of course, then we get into 78, and then they start really talking. Well, I said, and then they said the steroids don't do anything, then why are we testing for it? And then 80 comes, and 83 Caracas, and the guys' lives were ruined. You know, Jeff, I can't remember his last name, the guy that was the 242 pounder, got caught. He got busted, and he was really on his way up. And it's just, to me, you know, because I was anti-drug until I realized that, you know, this is just a fact of life. It's out there. And I mean, they've been testing for amphetamines, guys at the 60 Olympics. So my feeling is, and I have really strong feelings about it, when I see them going back and taking these medals from these guys from the Olympics that lifted 8, 12 years before, you know, I think about that. You can imagine. Yeah. And I'm thinking, where do they get off with this sophisticated test? Because they passed the test that day in Athens. They passed it in China in 2008. And I mean, my question is, if we're doing all this stuff, then what happens Sao Paulo, Brazil? You know, there wasn't one super heavyweight disqualified, not one. Yeah. You wonder what's going on. So I say, just let the sportsmen be sports, you know. You're football. I mean, is this to satisfy the public? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. You'd rather just see the biggest, best guys winning.
Yeah, exactly. Do people, let me ask you this. Do people go to see 132 pounder, 148 pounder clean and jerk 400? Or do they go to see a 350 pound monster clean and jerk 600?
Yeah, I think
if you go to the super heavyweight competitions, everyone's in there. Everyone wants to see the big guy. Nothing against the little guys.
There's some incredible smaller athletes out there, but everybody wants to see the biggest, freakiest weights lifted and biggest, crazy, freakiest athletes. Yeah, it's
but nothing like a 600 pound clean jerk, huh?
It's getting closer. You think
it'll happen? Just think about it. The guy Leonard Taranickel back in '89 did 587 or 588 down in Australia at the Sam Boys tournament. Yeah, and that's 89, 99, 2019, 32 years.
Crazy.
33 years. They haven't broken that record. And of course, that's not the official one, even though it was. They changed all the records, changed
the weight classes, didn't they? Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Stupid. It's dumb. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm a proponent of having it. I'm saying it should be an open competition.
I guess it was. What was the reasoning that they changed the weight classes in weightlifting?
Well, it's easy because then it's all new world records. Those were drug records that were done, but then they keep having to change the weight categories because they find those athletes were taking drugs too. I mean, you know, it's like you got to tie the hand behind the back when you got caught in the cookie jar, right? The right hand. So then you got to tie the back, and guess what? You use the left hand, right? So. I mean, it's funny.
Just before I let you go, we'll go back to World's Strongest. How many years did you stay involved with Strongman for after competing?
After competing, just I think 3 or 4 years, because then they moved it offshore, you know, because of the lawsuit with Franco Colombo when he blew his knee out. That's what really stopped it from being in the States, you know. Then it really kind of went overseas, you know, an injunction, you know, to pay, you know. And so I think that was what really messed it up, because it was, but I heard it's coming back to California in Sacramento. Yeah. I think I'll go up and see it. I love to see. I think is it this summer?
It's 21? June. Yeah, in June. I think it would be cool to see some of the kind of older legends of the sport come and support the new
You
guys.
coming over for it?
Depends
I
on.
just like to go watch. You know, when you're a fan of strength, you're a fan of any kind of strength. Lifting rocks.
I agree. I'm the same. I like weightlifting, powerlifting, arm wrestling, strongman, all those sports. You know, wrestling, or anything that involves strength and power. I'm always, you know, a fan of, and I think we always will be as well. It's just kind of ingrained, like you say. You're still lifting now, so
I love it.
and the
Thank you.
signal hasn't been perfect, so I'm going to just check a few things. But it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for coming on, and
you
hopefully,
can always get a hold of me. You can always get a hold of me, no problem.
well, if
I'm easy. I'm not like anywhere.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get over to the States at some point later this year, and maybe I can see you in person.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, if you get anywhere within 1,500 miles, I'm available.
Excellent.
Have car will travel.
Brilliant. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. Talking Strongman with the first ever winner of the World's Strongest Man, Mr. Bruce Wilhelm. Thank you, Bruce. Take care.
Well, just stay in touch.
I will do. All the best. While you're here, guys, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my awesome strength content.